Okay, welcome everyone. This is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school corporation's business, and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There may be time for public participation as indicated by agenda item or as directed by the president. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation central office. The meeting will be electronically recorded and will be kept on file in the superintendent's office. A copy of the audio recording will also be available on the NLCS website. So now, if those who are able will rise and uncover for the pledge. Tracy, you want to do it tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And all 7 board members are present here. So our first item of business is to review for approval the minutes and executive session memo from April 20th, 2023, and the minutes and executive session memo from May 4th, 2023. So I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Bailey makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I have
I think Scott may have a correction.
on the May 4th, everything looks good, but I had a different motion and second on one of the items on the 20th from my notes. So I don't know, we just make this
You
correction?
can make an emotion. He can make an emotion to amend.
Okay, so I make a motion, we amend the, action minutes 3. And we had, Barbara Miller making the motion, Jeff Lambert making the second, and I had that, Tracy Bailey made the motion and I made the second, so I make a move that we modify that.
Okay, and second?
So, is it, sorry, not time for discussion.
Mrs. Miller seconds. Okay, now discussion on the motion. Now you can go, Adam.
Okay, so Scott, was it just who made the motion and the second?
Yes.
Yeah, it was just,
Not the decision itself?
no, the
or
decision,
vote itself?
It was
it
just
passed, it's not the vote, it's just the
Okay.
motion.
How do we verify what's accurate here?
There is
Go with the
video.
tape.
So,
So we have checked the video, though?
I have.
So-
That was my question.
Yeah.
it happened before, and I just noticed it today and have not had time to check the video, so if you want to table it and let me check the video, we can do that.
I think I would rather make
That's
sure
fine.
from the
Okay.
video that I'm
Yeah.
not telling you you're wrong, but I just want to make sure you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Right, so I
You know,
just,
and
yeah,
so if we have video, that,
before,
It's easy.
I can check it tonight.
So
and
Jeff, do you want to make a motion to table the approval of?
I will make a motion that we
Just-
table
just-
that until we review the video.
Second.
And be sure we're right.
Okay.
I'll get it right.
So Mr. Lambert makes a motion. Mr. Bailey seconds. Any discussion on the motion to table approval of the minutes?
So what if I don't, oh, never mind. Yeah, I'll check it tonight and let everybody know.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to persons to address the board relative to the agenda. Do we have any cards up there? No cards? Anybody want to? Okay. All right. Mrs. Robin Muter.
I present claims and payrolls since the last board meeting in the amount of $3,281,901.20.
I would entertain a motion to approve claims and payroll since last board meeting as presented here.
I make a motion we approve.
Okay, Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Lambert seconds. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I ask the board for approval of the personnel agenda as presented to you this evening.
I would entertain a motion to approve the personnel agenda as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Collier makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Miller seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
As usual, I want to thank our
Oh. Thank you, Jeff.
retiring, looks like Melissa Kissinger. Kaiser, I can't read, I'm sorry. And just appreciate her service to us.
Yes. Thank you,
Appreciate our
Jeff.
retirees.
Go ahead, Robin.
Okay. Next, I ask the board for approval of service contracts for Blazer Works, blind and low vision services, and IEP therapy.
Can I ask the question for you, the motion?
Let's do the motion
Okay.
first, just to be procedural. I'd entertain a motion to approve the service contract for Blazers Work Blind and Low Vision Services and IEP Therapy as presented.
So moved.
Mrs. Collier makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley makes a second. Now discussion on the motion. Go ahead.
I was just curious, since these are three separate contracts to three separate companies, even though they're in the same subject, if we should vote on them individually or group them together. I didn't know if it would matter since they're separate contracts and separate companies. Okay, that's fine with me. Okay. Oh, yeah. In case you want, in case you want to vote against it or something. Okay.
The only question I had, Robin, are these expected expenses are these expected expenses and well within the range of what we planned?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Then we have number 4.
Let's see. And I ask the board for approval to hire a year-round, full-time, 260-day nurse at Playful Pathways.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mrs. Collier makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds. Any discussion on the motion? I would just note that right now they're sharing a nurse with BMS.
Correct.
Correct. So this is to give them their own dedicated, because that's really stress those resources between the two.
And yeah, they have some special needs students down there too that need a full-time nurse.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Number 5.
I ask for approval for the elementary administrative assistants to work 2 weeks before school and 2 weeks after school, and for the middle school administrative assistants to work 3 weeks after school and 3 weeks before school. It's always been something that's happened in the past.
Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Yeah, I make a motion that we extend administrative assistance to 2 weeks before and after school, and middle school administrative assistance 3 weeks before and after school.
Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Miller seconds. Any discussion on the motion? And this is for them to be able to finish up and prepare.
Correct.
Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. A couple
Okay.
more, Robin.
Next up, I ask for approval to hire performance services to renovate and make improvements to Needmore and Shawswick elementary schools and to make site improvements throughout the school corporation.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I make a motion to approve the performance services for this act.
All right. Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bailey makes a second. Discussion or questions on the motion?
Was this a competitively, I believe this was a competitively bid, or RFPs were released and they were competitively selected? Is that
Yes.
correct? Was that recently?
No, this happened a few months back.
This was before the
Before-
prior board. This was
On
the
the prior boards?
correct.
Yeah.
And do we know funding or the account that these services will be funded out of?
This would be the GEO bond, the $5
Okay.
million GEO bond.
And how did this, I guess, compare to the other companies that proposed? I mean, is it stronger technical or deadline or cost or?
So that would have been a decision that we made on the prior board. and I don't
Oh,
think that would be even reflected in the minutes, so.
And this is one of those things that I think using performance services when we did last year was the first time, at least that I'm aware, that we've used something like that, where every project that they will be a part of, they're responsible for. So instead of us having to go to 3 different contractors when there's an issue, we go to performance services. They're guaranteeing the work of the contractors. So they're going out and getting the bids for all the process. They're putting together what it is that we need to work on, and they're overseeing all of that. So the project that we had at the auxiliary gym where we put in new air conditioning, and that was the first time we had used them. And to my knowledge, there wasn't any hiccups other than just getting material.
So we saw a facilities needs list maybe a month ago now that had totals of estimates from our facilities and maintenance manager as to what the ballpark figures. What improvements specifically on those line items, or how much are we going to spend? What are we doing with this approval? Do we know?
He has quite a bit that needs to be done to the schools. I am not sure exactly what they're gonna use it for. I think that's gonna be brought up at a later time.
Right.
Right now, we're just trying to get this involved instead of the solar project that was previously, presented. This is just for the improvements right now. A roof, is one of them. We've got a septic, HVAC, playground. We have
Yeah.
lots of things that we
So
need.
this is this vote is to just allow for performance services, and then we will be at another subsequent public meeting. We'll be able to talk about the specific projects.
Prioritization.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I thought I had wanted to have some awareness of what the administration's priorities were and decide, or help decide, I guess, where the expenditures
and
would be
that-
applied at what
and
schools and
We
what
can do that in a work session, for sure.
Right, but there will be, I'll interject, there'll be further discussion about the specific projects that Mr. Yancey and I have spoken to them about are the roof at Needmore, the Shawswick roof, the septic system, the bleachers that you need to have taken care of if they'll fit into the project, and we're not quite sure they'll fit into under their governance and leadership and supervision. But we're in the discussion, and now for Needmore, we may come back with a request for proposal in June to extend that if it's not covered, if Needmore is not currently covered in your current request for proposal that you received earlier, and we'll know that by the time we come back in June.
You mentioned Shawswick roof. What about the Shawswick playground? Is that something else where?
Playgrounds are being discussed, but not out of the same money nor project.
Okay.
Yeah, but there you'll have a work session with Mr.
Okay,
Yancey
yeah.
by the time that comes around, and you'll make those decisions. We're not making any decisions for
Right,
you.
this is
We're just
just
trying
the-
to preliminarily get
Yeah.
the ball rolling so that we don't lose timeline.
Okay, there's a list here for Needmore. What was Shawswick needing?
They need a roof, they need HVAC.
Okay, so it's pretty well same thing Needmore does. Okay.
Yeah. And you'll get to prioritize that and make it fit the money you have. You might have 6.5 to 7 million. We're not even sure the exact dollar. You'll have soft cost in there, so you'll need to know what your hard costs are going to be after expenses of bonding money, et cetera, and their services.
We have a spreadsheet made up already with everything that we need. We're just waiting for Donnie to prioritize it, and then we can move forward.
Okay. And we'll have a work session and discuss it. All right. Any other questions or discussion on this?
Where's performance services based out of? Do we know?
Yeah, I thought so, Indy.
I can say that they've been around a long time, and I have worked with them. Mr. Yancey's worked with them. A lot of superintendents, I think, would give good reference, and school boards on them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. With no more discussion, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Couple more.
Okay, next, I ask for approval to pay Mr. Kevin Yancey his daily rate for days worked in June 2023.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Mr. Lombrick makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Miller seconds. Any discussion on the motion? And so this is so that Mr. Yancey can go ahead and get, just for the record, so that he can go ahead and get started and get working in our corporation, because his official contract begins July 1. So that's why. Any other discussion?
He'll technically be
He'll- An independent contractor, and for the month of June, and then his contract will begin July 1. All right. All those in favor, do you have any other discussion?
Do we need a separate contact for that, or just board approval is good enough? Okay. That's how they do it, okay.
Do we know how many days we intend on that being?
No, we do not know.
He
the
might,
number.
he's here.
Hopefully June, not more than 10. I'm putting in a little bit more in May than I thought, but it was helpful being here.
Mhm.
Real quick on the last proposal that you did, you know, Needmore was not in your RFP, so that's why we have to put that out there. And we do have a list, but in the work session, we'll make sure we get with you and list what that $5 million can fund, where you all will see it in the work session, be public when we have it here, so you can debate where you want to put the money in those buildings. I met with Donnie, and I think now we have a decent plan. I will say that the HVAC, as you know, in all of our buildings is expensive. So $5 million is not going to make a dent in the HVAC issues that we have in our corporation. But it's a start with these roofs and so forth, so I want to be transparent what we were doing, and I sure appreciate you. And I will promise you, we will make sure the next time we have a bond, we will do it the proper way, as we will show you the need first, then we will go to the board, how it's funded, and if there's a sequence, a way of doing that. I won't do it backwards, what we're doing now, but because we changed focus, and Dr. Miller's been very nice to allow me to call her and go through this process, because we need to start right away on these roofs this summer. That's why we need to move this process. I thank you for approving that last motion, so.
Okay. Did we vote on that yet? No. Okay. So we are voting, the motion on the table is to approval to pay Kevin Yancey his daily rate for days worked in June 2023. Were there any other discussion or questions? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Last one for you, Robin.
Okay, last one is I ask approval of the renewal contract with Chartwell's Food Services.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to that effect. Mr. Parsley makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. King seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
So just because we haven't really gotten many reports, other than the food's been fine, financially, how has it worked out for us?
It's working out good, and they are here. They're going to give you a little presentation on everything, but it's working out good.
Okay. Any other? Oh,
They're
go
going
ahead.
to come up and do do you want them to do the presentation now or after you vote?
Probably now would be
Okay.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
You better make it a good one.
Yeah.
Contract's on the line.
No pressure. Yeah. I'm sorry. We probably should have had. I didn't know you were here to present, or I
That's
wouldn't have
okay.
taken the motion. I apologize.
No, you are fine. Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board, administration. Thank you so much. My name is Siobhan Carey. I am the area director for Chartwells. So I'm just over the state of Indiana. I live not locally, but I live in the state. I live up in Indianapolis. Here is Megan Kelly. She's your on-site food service director. She lives in Greene County. Yep. So she's local. So tonight we're just wanting to give you a brief overview of who we are. Essentially understanding our contract. I think that's a big thing that, since you're relatively a newer board, with a lot of transition that has happened, I just want to make sure that you understand who we are, what the finances are, what kind of contract we have, essentially what we do for you. Understanding the National School Lunch Program, I think, is big. I think a lot of times school boards, they just know we feed kids, but they don't really understand the program. So we're going to try to make it brief. I don't think it's that lengthy, but obviously I want to leave room for questions. So we're going to go ahead. Next slide. So this is kind of, we're going to talk about the food service as well as kind of what our achievements have been this year and all the fun enhancements that we've put in forth. And then we'll talk about what's next for next year. Thank you. This is just a brief overview of who we serve currently in the state of Indiana. I can actually say that number now has grown since I made that. So we are now 39 school districts. But this is just to give you a rough, overview of how many people we service, how many public schools in the state of Indiana. Next. Okay, so these pictures here, this is all the pictures that are in this presentation are from your food service department and all the fun things that we've done. So we serve breakfast, lunch, a la carte. Any meal program that we possibly can do that North Lawrence qualifies for, we will do, right? Our job is to make sure your kids are fed and fed well. We prepare and cook all your food on site. A lot of our cooking is done, with scratch cooking, which means that we are not trying to pull everything out of a box and just put on a sheet tray. We follow recipes, production records. We have a chef on staff. His name is Nate Roos. And he's working with the team to kind of basically enhance their culinary skills. So that's been fun this year. And then we want to ensure, first and foremost, that all of the meals are compliant with the USDA regulations. And then, we recruit, hire, train, support the team of your amazing cafeteria associates. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. Next slide. So looking at the numbers, this is kind of just give you an overall. This is through April, the end of April. We've served 131,240 breakfast meals, almost 378,000 lunches served. That's your revenue in a la carte and catering. We've seen an overall 3% increase in meal participation, and right now the to be determined on the grants. We have about 3 or 4 grants that Megan has been working on in order to kind of enhance your cafeterias, more so like equipment financing and different things like that.
You say 3% increase over what? Over when?
So you have to kind of, when you look at the COVID, we have to go back before COVID because that's the real picture. Because during COVID, everything was free. So participation was, 100%. So we compared your numbers from 18-19 school year to what we're currently doing now.
Were you here in 1819?
No. But all of that data is public knowledge on the state website.
Just in general meals.
Just in general meals.
Okay.
So again, we'll get to that. So we claim your meals to the federal government, and the feds basically reimburse North Lawrence for those meals. So all of that, I could probably go back to 2005 and look at all of your participation year over year. So National School Lunch Program. So I'm not going to read this whole slide, I promise. It's kind of dry. But essentially, as I was saying, that all public schools are on the National School Lunch Program, and it's federally funded by the USDA. And so for every meal that you serve, our job is to make sure that it's compliant, that it follows the federal code or the federal regulations. So all meals should have fresh fruit and vegetable, whole grains, low-fat dairy, grains, as well as meat alternative, protein. So it's 5 components. And so our job is to make, and we have to offer those components. That's the dry part of the regulations, right? Our goal is to, make it fun and healthy, and kids just want to take all the components, right? And so in order to claim your meals to the government, they have to be compliant. And so you will be reimbursed for those meals based on the status. So free, reduced, paid. Okay? Obviously, as I'm sure, I don't know if any of you saw an article from the USDA. They're talking about the USDA wants to get rid of chocolate milk. That's big talk for the last couple of days. World of lunch ladies. Yes, it's a very unpopular topic. But essentially, our job is we keep up with all the regulations and all the changes and everything that's going on in Washington when it comes to the USDA. They're constantly, moving the goalposts on sodium, calories, fats, and all of that stuff. So, our job is to basically, once they make the changes, we implement that. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is your slide. So essentially, what kind of contract do we have? So we have what's called a cost reimbursable contract. That means that at the end of the day, we bill so we will purchase the food, the labor, other costs, so on and so forth, and then we bill that back to North Lawrence, and then and on top of that with our admin and management fee. So that means everything is owned by the district. All your equipment is owned by the district. You own the food. You own the reimbursements, the money that comes from students. That all goes into North Lawrence, bank accounts. So a lot of times people get confused. They think everything's coming to Chartwells. It doesn't. Any questions on that? Okay. So when we sign the contract, when we come in, we usually have a transition cost. So we always make an initial investment to help with those. So we made an investment of almost $66,000, which helps with smallware, signage, safety equipment, marketing, student engagement stuff. We had your projected client return. Your current return, as through April 30th, was $196,583 year to date. The contractual guaranteed return was $150,000. So we've obviously exceeded that. So our fees, so in being fully transparent, so you can see our fees. So admin fee is $85,000 for the year. And then we have a cents per meal, which is a management fee cents per meal of 6 cents per meal. And then the projected year total is $126,000 in fees. So many board members would look and say, well, why can't we do it on our own and save that, $126,000, which I'm sure that's what you're thinking. Yeah. Well, the last thing is our current rebates and credits. So one of the biggest, advantages to going with us is our buying power. So obviously we are a, large global company, and we have the ability to purchase we're probably, of all food service management companies, we have the strongest and best buying power. So at the end of every month, you will receive credits back on the purchasing that we do for you. So far, your current rebate credits have been over $200,000. So essentially, the rebates pay for our fees, and then whatever's left over is profitability to the food service fund. So, next slide. Okay, achievements. So this is where Megan, she gets to kind of brag on the team and the food service department.
Yeah. So you can go next slide. Megan Kelly, nice to meet you all. So we have some student engagement. So nutrition, education, and promotions, we call that Discovery Kitchen. Discovery Kitchen is where we can educate children on fruits, vegetables, why they're important, why all the components are important. So we have done 3 of them. We've done 2 of them so far. We did one at Shawswick where we did the smoothie bike. That's what you see there. The kids got to ride on the smoothie bike. They got to learn about what goes in the smoothie, why it's important, why it's good for them, and they were able to see how they're made. We handed out recipe cards, so it was fun. The kids loved it. We also did just recently a summer theme during the fun run at Lincoln. They taste tested melons. They got to see what the inside of a melon looked like. Most of them hadn't seen that. They were like, what is that? So that was fun. And then we tasted, they tasted infused water, which you guys will have tonight. So it's melon infused water. That was fun for them.
Can you tell me what a smoothie bike is?
Smoothie bike, yeah. So you see that little bike on there?
I do.
Yeah.
Does it mix up the?
Yeah. So on the front, a smoothie, you can kind of see the smoothies in front of Nate and I. The blender. Yeah. There you go. The blender sits on top of the smoothie bike, and whenever they pedal, it turns it. So it's pretty amazing. We borrowed.
It's like a twofold. You're teaching kid about energy as well as just something cool and fun.
Yeah. Right. So we borrowed that from a neighboring school, which was fun. Student choice is our way of asking students their input on what they like to see, what they don't like to see. So we've done 3 of those so far, 2 at BNL, 1 at BMS. Kids voted on this one here. This is a deli bar. If you've ever eaten at B&L before, you'd see that. They get to choose. We've kind of one-upped the routine salad bar and put a deli bar there. Kids voted, they loved it, and now it's a station. We did a parfait bar for breakfast to boost breakfast numbers. Breakfast numbers are really low, so we're trying to find ways to boost that. And the parfait bar, they loved it. I wish I had a picture because it was gorgeous. They loved it, so staff loved it. So we'll start that next year. We sampled a breakfast burrito bar, and the kids loved that. So they get to choose their toppings. We're all about like picking and choosing what you want on the to have for lunch, not just here's your pizza, but here, build this to what you like. And then we like to come in and refresh cafeterias. So we did this at B&L. We kind of did a wrap. It just makes it more of a non-institutional look. We like it more like a college feel, and I think the kids have adapted well to that. They love it. It makes them feel big, even though they are big. Next slide, thank you. So our communication, the way we communicate with parents and students. I've done 2 surveys at the middle school, including Olytic Middle. I did high school surveys, so we sent out surveys to implement new ideas and what they like and what they don't like. And we do social media. NutriSlice is our menu platform, and Nudge is our way of communicating with associates throughout the entire Chartwells. Next slide. Any questions on those? So the grilled tomato, deli, extra, create, butcher baker, those are all of our stations that we currently implement. There's many more that we can actually do. There's our student choice of the burrito, the tomato, there's some of our pizzas at the middle and high school. We always offer a fresh variety of fruits and vegetables. We like to do fresh cut fruits and vegetables. That was this smoothie at the elementary. We do that, yeah. Definitely that's an elementary one, but we do fruits and vegetables everywhere, but we do like to offer a wide variety. And then that was our smoothie station where they got to sample those. Next slide. And our people. We've increased pay rates and we've given out bonuses this year. We've offered benefits to the staff that didn't actually get benefits last year with NLCS. We do training. We do recognition, so our Cheers program is our way of recognizing our associates and all their good things that they do. And our retention, we're looking to keep everybody for next year. And we've actually done pretty well at retaining anybody who stayed with us through the transition. We've retained a good portion of them. I don't know the exact numbers. It was pretty high, yeah. All of high school stayed, so that was a big one. That's a big transition.
No, it didn't.
No, we have roughly 50.
I thought I had it all.
Yeah. Yeah, we have roughly 50 employees. You can go next slide. I think this is where Siobhan's going to take over.
So this is the second part, just building on our success. So culinary and service enhancements. So we're going to bring more build your own concepts. Really focusing on breakfast. Breakfast is a big driver. Breakfast protein options, student choice, continuing with that platform. This was very exciting. We piloted a breakfast in the classroom over at Olytic Middle School. Megan, you said it was wonderful. Elementary and middle, yes. Yep. Students have been great. Staff have been wonderful about it. And everybody's it's been going really, really well. So, and then obviously we constantly are exploring different serving models for each cafeteria, in different ways that we can enhance breakfast, grab and go, second chance breakfast, so on and so forth. Okay, next slide. This is exciting. This is our another new concept that we're bringing to all our schools in Indiana next year in the fall. It's called Global Eats, helping students connect with one another through global food exploration. So we'll be focusing on Mexico, Italy, India, and China next year. Next slide. And then continuing our Discovery Kitchen nutrition education platform with the students. As you can see here, this is like our calendar, right? So we have a different concept every month, nutrition education of so you see like Power Up in September, that's like sports nutrition. And then Plant Power for March, teaching kids about, protein isn't just chicken. It's, there's different sources of plant proteins that everybody can eat. And so be a waste warrior in April. Yep. Next slide. Some pictures from some events that we've done. That was Grandparents' Day, and we focus on Valentine's Day. It's kind of like a heart-shaped pizza, and the staff really get into it, and they enjoy it. So, last slide. Next slide. And then this is your team. So the top, this is your on-site food service team. So there's Megan, Chef Nate, and then every kitchen manager from every building, and then the regional support team, which is myself, Paul Kendall, and Jim Paladenic. So we support from near and far. So we appreciate your support and partnership, and we've really enjoyed our first year here. And we thank everybody for. Robin's been amazing. The administration, everybody's been really wonderful to work with. So, any questions?
The only question I had was there was one slide where you broke down and you threw in catering.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember that was an intriguing part. Do you know how much you made off of catering?
Do you know that?
And is that like
Roughly.
I combine the number.
Yeah, you did.
I
is that like
roughly.
external to the corporation catering?
No.
Or is it
So
all internal?
again,
And-
everything is
okay.
back to the school corporation. We don't
No, I
keep
mean
any.
the food. You
The
catered
food.
only to school.
We're only
functions.
catering to your functions. Yes.
Got it.
But it
Okay,
could be
that's fine.
beyond that. If my understanding was correct, possibly.
Yes. So typically our service is here for North Lawrence. I don't want to be, if you had a wedding and you're like, hey, I'd like you to cater. I can
I'm good. I'm
I can
almost
whip
done.
up some chefs. But typically we're catering, catering to North Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah. I can, I'll follow back. I don't want to give you the wrong number.
Yeah.
I can follow back up in an email and let you know what the breakout is between both.
I just wonder if we push that enough. That
Yep.
not everybody. Everybody
You have an
knows.
executive chef, right?
Yeah.
He's on staff. We keep him very busy because, his main focus is really working with the kitchen managers and the cooks to really enhance their culinary skills. A lot of our employees, they don't come in having any skills, right? We're teaching them, hey, this is how you chop, dice, julienne, how to make a dressing from scratch instead of out of a bottle, right? So those are big wins for the employees. I'm sorry? Well, no, then he can focus on the catering.
I would just like to brag on them that Monday, if you come to the breakfast for the Southern Year Celebration breakfast at 7:45, they are catering our breakfast.
All 500 people.
So, yes, everyone's
So
invited.
that number should go up next year then.
Yes. I think after this board meeting, everybody's going to be calling Megan. So.
Do you track? I asked about the 3% increase, but I'd be curious if you see more kids buying your lunch or getting your lunch from start of the school year to the end. This is the first school year, right?
Yes. So.
Can you track that and you know it?
Yeah, participation is key to us. It's the key to your food service department's success. So we are constantly tracking that, and so we can look at it based on, hey, that station's not working. Those kids don't like it. That's why we do the student choice, and we try to engage them because those different platforms help engage participation. So
I
but
have
we can track it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have a question about free and reduced. So my son's starting BMS next year, and we went on a tour, and we went through the stations that he's going to have available, and I was pretty floored compared to my experience.
You mean
but
the little square pizzas
Yeah,
that we all
but
got and loved?
Don't knock the square pizza now.
good.
My husband says the same thing.
The pudding in a can, that was. But my first thought was, as a former free and reduced lunch kid, was do they have the same options?
Yes.
Or they're not othered
Yes.
by? Okay.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I get that often. Everyone's like, "This is for everybody," and I'm like, "Yes." So that would be a civil rights violation if we were like, "Oh, you can only go to this one." Yeah, no.
Back in the 90s,
yeah.
I can tell you it was different.
Yes, you know what? I've taken over some districts where I've heard that they currently do that. I was like, "Yeah, we don't do that." No. So, yeah.
I do want to say that the cashiers don't even know who's free reduced.
Correct.
So, no one knows.
No.
So
It's
It just
all-
evoked an anxiety in me because I used to use that to get my lunch, and so it was like, oh no, but I'm very happy to hear that. I probably should have already known that.
So that brings up another question for me, because years ago we had this discussion about the kids that don't have the money, aren't on free and reduced, and they're negative on their account. How are we handling that?
Great question. So obviously we follow all school district policies in regards to negative debt, so on and so forth. And we've had long discussions with the business team, Robin, and so we will follow the policy. And so whatever the policy states, that's what we do. What I can tell you is that communication is key. So Megan and her team send emails to families every day via email, because you can do that with the software program to let families know they're in the negative. And then, the other thing is you can ask them to fill out a free and reduced application, but you can't force them. So if they're in debt but they don't want to fill out the free and reduced, that's the struggle. But what our job is, we will process, we encourage it. The big thing is communicate, encouraging families to apply. That's huge. I would also, being at any kind of wellness nights, any back to school nights, those are the areas. And then kind of having the software enhancements so that you can do online, which we do. So that's nice. So sometimes families are, they don't want anybody to see them filling out a free and reduced application, at school, in the office, or at a wellness night. So having the online capability is key as well.
And is our policy that everybody eats, even if they have a negative balance, right?
That's our policy.
Everybody eats. Okay, just want to make that
I think
clear.
it's a policy, and I agree that they need to eat, but I think it's a policy that we need to look at, because it's been so long. I don't remember how we addressed the deficit. And that's one of those things that we don't want to be hanging out there forever. If we can do something in the beginning, because I remember when we had this discussion the first time, there was a multitude of them that qualified for free and reduced lunch. They just didn't, either the stigma, they didn't want to fill it out. So I think it's for another day, the topic, just to kind of review that a little bit, because I don't remember what we settled on
And
with it.
I can share
happy-
what the policy
Sure.
is. I'm your policy guy, so
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of other things around here, but I know policy. And your policy does clearly state that all children eat regardless of their ability or inability to pay. You also, in your policy, are following the State Board of Accounts rule, which is any child who gets into debt of $10 or greater, then the system starts, the school corporations to start the process of notifying parents by letter, then by phone call, and then to collections if you have to. And in fact, your policy even says you can use your attorney, you can hire an outside collection agency or an attorney other than your attorney to do the collection. And I don't know where you are on the collection piece, but I do know what your policy says, and it could be something that the business office would want to review, and Mr. Yancey grab that bull by the horns and shake it loose, and you decide how far you want to go into collection. But your policy's pretty well written as to what you're supposed to do.
So we just sent out collection letters this week to everyone that owed money.
So many districts, based on what Dr. Halleck was saying, is that many districts are having the same struggles that you are, and everybody kind of falls into the same. They get a collections agency to help recoup some of the money. Obviously, you have to pay a fee to that, so you have to balance all of that. What's really exciting is that the government has come up with so there's a system called TREX, which Robin and her team are enrolled in, which is great. Which essentially, if a family owes and they are not paying their debt, what will happen is you report them to TREX, and then TREX will stop their tax refund and will take that money out of their tax refund before it even gets to them. So that's helpful. So it also encourages families when you communicate that to families. Now they're like, well, I don't want anybody messing or slowing down my tax refund. So it encourages them to pay their debt. Or encourages them to fill out a free and reduced application to qualify so that they can have, free lunch.
So I guess you guys do a pretty good job of predicting or tracking how much food you're going to need each day at each school. But what do you
There are
get into-
production records
Yeah.
that we're required. They're actual legal documents that are required by the Department of Education and the USDA, and so we use that to track our meals and meal counts. And again, we put the menu on a 5-week cycle, so when it comes around again, you can look at your production record and say, oh, the kids love that, so we did 200 servings. So I'll predict that for this time around.
So at the end of the day, if you have something left over, what do you guys do with the kids?
So again, we follow all the food safety regulations. So again, how long has it been sitting out? Has it been exposed? Is it within the temperature danger zone? So we will assess all of that. Some may have to be wasted because it's a food safety issue. And then other stuff, again, with batch cooking, that's how you can also control your waste, right? So you're only wasting a little bit versus, 2 pans of pasta salad. And then obviously we follow all the sanitation rules, food safety. If we're able to cool it down and save it and it's something that can be used again, then we'll obviously do that. Any other questions? These are great questions. Thank you.
Scott and I were invited to Shawswick by a 6th grader last week, and so we went out to Shawswick and took a tour.
Ms. Karen
we-
Daly, kitchen
and
manager.
we had lunch and very organized chaos at lunchtime. It was pretty awesome. But our 6th grade tour guide suggested the chicken sandwiches, the French fries, and there was a little cup of frozen strawberry stuff.
Oh, was that what was that? Was that
And-
I can't remember. It was like the promo.
Kind of like a strawberry ice type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they called again?
I think if she's referring to the sidekicks.
Sidekicks. That's right.
Yeah.
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 But it was all very good.
Yep.
And we asked him how lunch was, and he said he loved lunch because everything was always good every day.
That's awesome. Great feedback. I love it. And we're planning, Megan was talking about surveys, so we focused on secondary, secondary students this year, but over the summer we're planning to send surveys to elementary parents because little kids, they can do like a little card in the line, but it slows it down. So we'd really like to hear from parents. So we're focusing on doing some surveys, via email out to all the parents.
I have 2 comments, no questions. One, just FYI, one of the things we're voting on is their assurance of civil rights compliance.
Yes.
And the other one is the original smoothie bike was invented by the professor. Yeah, if you know the answer, that dates you a little bit. But
Now I'm going to go Google.
Yeah,
I'm
is
not
that,
even going to
is
listen
that
if you vote
Gilligan's
for our
Island?
contract.
Gilligan's Island, Professor? Steve's on it. All right, any other questions?
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Did
you.
you have a question first? Oh, okay. So we do have a motion on the table, which is to, let me read it again, to renew the contract with Chartwells. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Robin. And now I think we have Mr. Calhoun.
Thank you, Board President. Let's take a bite out of curriculum. I fell flat, I know. All right. I have a few items for this evening. The first is to get approval for the Memorandum of Understanding between North Lawrence Community Schools and the University of Indianapolis by and through the Center of Excellence in Leadership of Learning. And that is in your packets, and if you have additional questions, Dr. Lemons from Parkview is here to help answer those as well.
I would first entertain a motion, unless there's something to present. Is there anything to present from Parkview,
No,
or just here to answer
Julie.
questions?
I make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Bailey makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Generally, you want to summarize the intent of the MOU for us?
She would love to.
Yeah, just so you're on the mic for people who are watching.
So the memorandum of understanding is just basically outline what the responsibilities of the cadre would be and then what our responsibilities back would be. So as you look through, it states what they will provide as we join this cadre over 2 years. And then it also states what they're expecting from us, and that is our instructional coach, which we already have in place, remain in that position for 2 years, if at all possible. And then the school has some responsibilities that we have to undergo, which is Maggie Dayton really helped direct us onto this path of the science of reading and making sure that our curriculum is aligned well. And our data that we're taking is consistent with the science of reading as well. They want us to use a pre-approved formative assessment. We already are using it, and they want us to have our second grade students take the iRead 3. We already do. So for us, it's just to really help and support what we know we have happening and some holes in our identified for our Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, and our resources that we would use to help with our individuals with disabilities. Those students are moving into gen ed classes, and so we need to bridge that gap for them to have them and allow them to access what's happening in the gen ed classroom. And our gifted and talented on the other end, we have some rigorous curriculum, but we still have some needs that we need to address. And so we're hoping that those experts, state experts, and the just collaborating with some other school districts with similar demographics can help us meet those needs.
So, Dr. Lemons, is this specific to reading?
Yes.
Is it, okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Let me ask, why is it specific to Parkview and not the entirety of our elementary schools?
Well, every school was invited. I'm not sure if they wanted to participate or not. We put in the once we had their invitation, we expressed our interest. They looked at our demographics. They looked at our curriculum. We had a curriculum audit that we did, and we identified areas that we thought we could really need support in, and they felt we were a good fit. So,
Mr. Calhoun, do you have any comments further on why none of our other elementaries are participating? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lemons. Any other questions or discussion on that motion?
But I think it doesn't change the curriculum of what we're teaching in the other schools. It's merely this enhancement part.
our goal is not to supplant. Our goal is to support what we're currently using.
Right.
We've worked really hard to build fidelity among the schools, and our data is all consistent, so we can make sure that every child is learning throughout the district. That would not change for us. This gives us an opportunity of some additional resources to meet those needs that we have identified this year.
And our continued professional development and training for our staff across the district on that same curriculum would continue.
So, via this MOU, it will sort or sift across all of our elementary schools. Would that be an accurate statement then?
In various degrees, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll all benefit from whatever improvements they make.
It just seems strange to have an MOU with a university
Single.
with a single elementary within our district. I don't know why we.
And I can't speak to the history of
Right.
that origin of why all five.
Yeah.
Or all the other four are not a part of it.
Okay. Future discussion, perhaps.
Yeah, future
you.
discussion. Any other questions, discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, and I think you have more.
Yes, a couple more. Thank you all. We wanted to seek approval tonight to begin planning an out-of-state trip with a company called World Strides for interested North Lawrence Community Schools 5th and 6th grade students to Washington, D.C. for a tour of the nation's capital, including museums and monuments. And Mr. Justin Dodd from Parkview is here to discuss that. He approached the curriculum department about this possibility for all 5th and 6th graders across the district. So before we pursued that, we wanted to bring it to the board for consideration for such a large type of trip.
If you want to come up and tell us about it, that'd be great.
Madam President, Board. Basically, what we're looking at doing is for everybody, 5th and 6th grade, throughout the district, we want to take them on a 3-day tour of the nation's capital, kind of connect to our history lessons for U.S. history for 5th grade, have them be able to see the buildings and kind of produce some of the connections that they would have with just hearing us talk and giving them pictures and images of it, letting them have some kind of firsthand experiences with it. But that is our main goal for this. We're going to open it up to everybody. The company World Stride pretty much does everything for us. They apply insurance. They help with payment plans. They help financial aid if people are struggling and can't afford to pay for the trip. Basically, I would just be kind of the facilitator between World Strides and me and whoever else wants to go with us. So.
Did you say 3 days?
Yes. Basically, what we're looking at is leave on a Saturday morning, fly there. We would have Saturday the whole day, Sunday the whole day, We'd pack up Monday morning, finish the tour of all the capitals, the White House, that kind of things, and then we'd fly back Monday night. And we're looking at either spring break of next year, or if we have to push it back into the summer of next year as well.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, do you have, like a estimated head count of how many?
We need to get it moving forward so we can produce the
Okay.
materials. Yes, but we don't have a head count of just from my building alone. From the people I've talked to, I mean, roughly we have 10 to 15 from our building, but that's just Parkview. We haven't opened it up to everybody because we are still waiting to get approval to move forward with them having a meeting
Planning.
with all the parents that are interested and to attend it.
So I have a question about, first of all, I think it's great. When I was in 8th grade, we went for one day. We left in the morning and we came home in the evening. So this is great. My question is, and you may not know the answer to this, but is there any way that we can message it for parents or students so that they don't hear it and think, oh, I can't afford that, so I'm not even going to go to the meeting? To make sure, so that may be something that we do with that with
they
the
would
company.
have. They would set out all the flyers.
Okay.
If we could send out a school blast through all the
Yeah.
the different elementary schools for the 5th and 6th graders. I don't think the cost would even be put on there until they attended the meeting.
Yeah, I just think some parents might hear, "Oh, a 3-day
Yes.
trip to what? We
Yes.
can't do." So I will just want to be.
Yeah, they do. They
Aware.
offer scholarships and other
Okay.
things as well. They have a really amazing payment plan. $99 a month until you pay for it. It doesn't have to be paid up before we go. Just as long as it's paid,
Okay,
in a certain amount of time.
that's
So,
great. And I think if this is approved, that's something that you as a facilitator can work with our superintendent on if there are kids that need additional.
so,
I just
yeah.
want to make sure that we message it that way. I think it's
Yes,
a great.
if she's already given us the World Strides, the company is already going to give us like $5,000 scholarship,
Okay.
just if we get the ball rolling and get going.
Okay.
That we can use either to distribute between multiple people or one person or two people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Did you have a question?
No.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve beginning planning of the out-of-state trip with World Strides as just discussed by Mr. Dodd.
Make a motion?
Mr. Parsley makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds. Any discussion or questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Board President. We'd like to seek approval for the year 2 movement of a 3-year service contract with Microsoft for the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Mr. Lambert makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
Just a curiosity question. If we said no, what is the option outside of this?
Well, it's a very good question. So, and the reason that myself and Brandy Ritchie in the technology department, together, curriculum and technology, we put the appendix piece together for this, because when it was submitted to me, I read it, and I was like, I know Microsoft, and I'm running short on words I understand on some of the rest, and these are the operating system that we use for all the staff computers, and the Microsoft Office suite. So that the use of that, and then again some of this with the antivirus components, and then just the actual service, the licenses to have this.
I mean, is
So
there
if
other
we-
options out there? Is there school systems that are using, Dr. Halleck, maybe you can answer this. Is there school systems using something besides this? I know I'm pushing this on, but I'm just curious.
Well, if you buy a Mac, there are some word
That's
processing programs on here, but it's not Microsoft.
Right.
Like, even I personally subscribe to Microsoft because there isn't anything else or better, so I pay for an annual fee of $99 to be able to use it. You're paying $35. There's no reason you wouldn't
No, I
continue
just
to
wondered
use-
if there was
but I don't
anything
know of
else
any
out there.
competitor. No,
Yeah.
And
I'm
in
not a
higher
real
ed,
techie,
they
but-
pretty much have a
Yeah.
monopoly at all universities.
Sorry.
No, it's a great
It's a
question.
good question. It really is. That's where you can make your wealth. Is just
There you
you
go.
create a new.
Oh, yeah, I'll just
new
whip that up
alternative.
tonight.
a tremendous aspect of this, especially in the work we do, curriculum and data, is the Microsoft Excel component. Even though we transition a lot of things to Google Sheets, it comes out as a comma separated value, a CSV file, and you have to have Excel to have that.
Right.
So it's just a
Your
pricey,
kids are using Google
yeah.
Docs. I mean,
Yes.
there's alternative things for kids to use, but the adult usage of what he's talking about, the Excel, the PowerPoint, the whatever, the Word.
Okay, any more
Yeah,
questions?
I have a question. So, we have the five-star quote and then the appendix.
Mhm.
And some of these, I mean, they're Microsoft speak, I guess, but
Yeah.
in the appendix,
Mhm.
the third one down talks about license for Office Pro plus education.
Mhm.
And then on the five-star quote, it's actually the fourth one down, so they don't line up exactly. I think the 12-month one got out of line. But anyhow, it says it's antivirus for servers, and the other two items for servers is quantity 16. This says for servers and the quantity is 500. So is this, if it's licensed, if it's antivirus for servers, shouldn't the quantity be 16 versus 500? Or do we have to have
The-
a portion of the antivirus
That's a good
run on
question.
each
So the
laptop?
500's for devices specifically, and the servers are for the bigger servers.
Yeah, so it says, in the appendix, you know, the second line you got there says antivirus for servers. And if you look at what's on the other one,
Mhm.
the LCIS Office Pro Plus, it's got a quantity of 500. If there's 16 servers, should this not be 16, or do we have to have a version of the antivirus actually running on the laptops? Because the servers are 16, you have two other items in F16.
Mhm.
It's the first one and the last one. And the five-star quote and the appendix, they don't line up exactly. So it's the third line down on the appendix, and it's the fourth line down on your five-star quote. But it says, the abbreviated language is the same. The blurb that you added about the antivirus is addition on the appendix, which helps. But it looks to me like the quantity should be 16. I mean, if it's antivirus for the server. So just kind of curious.
I'd be glad to, get back, find out more about it.
Yeah, I'm just,
To directly answer that question on the quantity, that's a good question. 500 versus 16 is a big difference.
so we table until you find that
We
out.
you can make a motion to table,
The
unless we can find it out right now.
the only
Unless there's a dead
I
number.
believe and I'd have to double check this for sure, but I believe the time ends at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So
It expires on 31st.
May 31st?
yeah,
I think we could just, vote on it and then
Yeah.
verify that it is correct.
I
We can
think
always
the
change it.
500 is everybody's individual computers, because we all have that
Yeah.
on our computers or
Okay.
laptops. And I
That's
think
how I
the
read it, but it
16
does
is
say-
the
Well,
servers.
it could be a portion of the virus, has to be on the laptop as well. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of software
I
runs
have it
that
on
way.
my laptop and my desktop, so.
It's just, okay. So it's really antivirus.
Antivirus on
So you'll verify
well,
that.
and when we see in the Win EDU, that's in the 500 range of the quantity. That's for the devices, and then you see the Win server at SVR on a couple. That's for those servers that help us overall as well. So
Okay. Any other
good analysis.
discussion
Thank you.
on that item? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. You've got one more, Mr. Callahan.
I will read it. I'll find out more about
Yeah,
that.
thank
Get back to you guys though. Thank you. All right, thank you. We're seeking approval for a contract renewal of Power School product license and fees for the 2023-2024 school year.
I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Mrs. Collier makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. King seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to say that, we talked about this before the last meeting. This addendum helps a lot. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I don't know if it's exactly a Power School issue, but we have repeated issues of communication methods. Dr. Lemons mentioned it in December, even before we came onto the board, and I don't know if that's under this contract.
Is Blackboard under Power School? Okay.
Okay.
He's not.
Yeah, I will shut up.
But no, you shouldn't, because that's a great
It's
point
a
you're bringing
fairly
up. Because-
encompassing
well,
tool, though, right?
Well,
Power School.
We've navigated an interesting journey with Blackboard this year, and a lot of our challenges with Blackboard are actually centered on how we've customized Power School.
Right.
So on the end user side, we have the ability to make certain parts of Power School look how we'd like them to look. On your phone with your smartphone, if you move apps around, that kind of thing, we can move the way certain fields look, where names would be or addresses would be. Well, over the time, kind of like Johnny Cash building a Cadillac one piece at a time, we've been doing that. And what that's done, and plus we moved to a new enrollment system last year, and inadvertently there was an added piece on contact information at the bottom of that. So we have done those things, and those automations that have been with the customizations have made our contacts a mess. I mean, we have people in the district, depending on the age of their student, that are in there 16 times. So what we're working to do is lock down on one screen, it's called the demographics page, lock that down to where it's just viewable and it can't be edited, because what we found out because of our work with Blackboard, when you go to try to fix something in Power School, it duplicates. And then we use another field called contacts. And if you have multiple children in the district and a staff member at Parkview changes that child's contact information for their parent, it's going to change for the other parent and guardians for those other kids in the district. Whereas our situation now, if somebody at one school changes it for a child, it doesn't change at the other schools for that same parent.
So it's not necessarily with the product of Blackboard, but it's how we're integrating it with Power School?
The mass notifications part of Blackboard is, we've got that fairly dialed and with a plan. The two-way piece, the reach component, I would advocate, and we can talk about this, at a further meeting, that we move away from that. We don't necessarily want to be in the business of that, because in that realm, we are the ones that have the data, and parent or guardians sign up, and then we kind of are in the middle of that too much. Whereas other programs that are available, we buy a site license, we make sure our users, like staff, have the ability to create a class, let's say, and then they share out with their classroom families, hey, we'd really love to communicate with you in a two-way fashion, so please get this app if you'd like. We can communicate. It's your choice. You sign up with whatever communication, whatever, your information you'd like, and then we can move forward on that. So it'd help us out a little bit in that regard, so we're not constantly having to control, because families change numbers, things like that. So, and in that two-way, that's faster and used more often than us using a mass notifications that's, messaging out from us to them. The two-ways more often.
Okay, so this is we're only voting on Power School here, though, just to
Yes, and this is all encompassing. This is all of the utilization tools that we'll use for the 23-24 school year.
Okay. I guess the basis of my question was, we don't want to perpetuate the problem another year,
Nope.
and or we need to encapsulate the solution to the problem in whatever this is, if it's possible.
Making big strides there.
All right.
Yes,
So
thank
is
you.
it a matter of training, or just the way the software and the software packages interact?
It's really a matter of Blackboard revealed some things about the way we were doing our data that was going to come to a head at some point, most likely, and it just happened to reveal it during this time. But we have the tools in place now, just cleaning it up, so there's reports I've been running within Power School to see, contact duplicates. We're also working, David Van Laningham and I are building a communication plan for our families, because a big part of this too is our families in partnership with us to make sure that they're registering, they're putting the proper names, contact information, addresses, because we can't reach them well if they don't work with us. So we got to work with them, but we got to also have a great product. We have to be excellent on our end. So it's team effort,
Okay.
but we got the tools in place.
Okay.
And we save some money.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Board.
Calhoun. All right, so Jeff is not here, Jeff Callahan, so who wants to present his? Steve, you want to do it?
Yeah,
Steve,
sure.
why
I'll,
don't you do that?
I'll go ahead. Thanks, Jim.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Yes, Athletic Director Jeff Callahan is requesting approval of an overnight camp for the Lady Stars basketball team on June 23rd and 24th at Bethel University.
All right, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Mr. Bailey makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. King seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm gonna be the dumb one. Where is Bethel University? I don't even know where that is.
It's up by South Bend.
Yeah, it's northern.
Okay, so it's still in
Indiana.
Indiana. Okay.
Yeah, it's near Notre Dame.
Crossroads Conference, I know that.
Yeah.
You know specifically why we chose that? Is it just because of the other teams that come in, or it's just, do we have some kind of connection, or just, it's a good camp? Okay.
I can find out.
That's okay, I was just kind of
I
curious.
think that's where they offer this camp. I mean, I think that's just where they happen to offer the camp that.
I mean, a lot of places
Yeah.
have camps, I was just kind of curious, but I can talk to Jeff about it.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Is Mrs. Redmond here? Yes, Mrs. Redmond is here. If you want to present them one at a time, or
Yeah,
would that
let's-
work? Okay.
Let's do them one at a time. Good evening. I feel like I should start with saying I'm back. You remember a few months ago, I was up here to present a state trip for HOSA, which are our future health professionals. And I'm very proud to report that at the state competition, we had some students qualify to attend nationals. So as you saw in your packet, we have one student who qualified in prepared speaking, and then a parliamentary procedure team also qualified to compete at nationals. And this year, that's in Dallas from June 21st to the 24th. And we'll be taking one instructor, our sponsor, Arian Evans, and another chaperone as well.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the approval of HOSA to attend the national conference in Dallas this year, June 21 to the 24th.
Make the motion.
Mrs. Miller makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Collier seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate all the hard work of the instructors and the students.
This is especially exciting because our health science students have not been able to complete clinicals for the past few years, and they've got out, and I'm happy to report that we have 31 registered CNAs
Oh, that's great.
as of last week.
Okay, anything else? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries, and you've got one more.
Yes, so FFA will be attending the state competition and convention. So 6 students total. 4 will be competing in the vet science competition. And then additionally, 2 of those are delegates. So delegates get to help shape Indiana FFA policy. We're pretty excited about that. So while they are on campus at Purdue they'll leave on Sunday the 18th. They'll come back on Wednesday in June. On the 21st, they'll get to tour campus. They'll participate in leadership workshops, of course, the ever-popular team building exercises, ag industry tours, and the official convention sessions there as well.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the overnight field trip to Purdue, as Mrs. Redmond just discussed, for our FFA teams, June 18th to the 22nd. Mr. Lombard makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. King seconds. I'll give it to him. Any discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Redmond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Underwood.
Yes, thank you. I am asking the board for approval to amend the approved 2023-2024 school calendar for a school day closure on April 8th, 2024, due to the total solar eclipse.
It's going to be like prime, like right here, right? Like,
Yeah, we're going to have a swath of darkness for 4 minutes right at dismissal time. I've spoken to Valerie Luckower at Emergency Management, and she says 50 to 100,000 people are expected to be in this area. The apogee or perigee, I can't remember what it is at Lake Monroe. So people are going to be on either side. Most of the schools around us are closed. Mitchell's closed. The fact that it's going to be total darkness for 4 minutes right at dismissal concerns me, and with kids looking up, I think we need to follow suit.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve school day closure on April 8th, 2024 for solar eclipse.
And is this what, oh, sorry, never mind, I'll ask when we
Mr.
have-
King makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Miller seconds. Discussion on the motion.
Yeah,
Kirsten?
can we not do like a virtual day that day or something, or,
That's a good point. That's in the works. We haven't decided how
Okay.
we're going to make it up,
okay,
but there has been discussion about
okay,
it. Yes,
thanks.
we will have to make it up.
Because we will have primary day, not a month later probably, that will be out
Yes,
also.
that's correct.
But I have seen Little Shop of Horrors, and terrible things happen when there's a total eclipse of the sun.
Don't stay in, but stay home.
All right.
Turn it all now. Just turn it all.
Any other discussion?
Stay off for an eclipse.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote then.
It's a rare opportunity.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we won't see him walking around outside in total darkness. I live right next to BMS, so I won't get to see that. Okay. All right. Mr. King.
Recently attended the Indiana School Board Association spring meeting, and a lot of information that's relevant to the public and the school board and school corporation. So rather than try to digest it all, stick it in some kind of electronic format, I thought it might be good just to present it here. Most of what I have is summer information anyhow, but for those who don't know, Indiana School Board Association, exists in the state to support school boards. They offer legal assistance and parliamentary assistance and governance assistance, and then they look out for K through 12 students in the state. We happen to be in District 9, which has 14 counties and 31 school corporations. It's the southwest corner of the state. Lawrence County is the northeast corner, and then Posey County, which is just west of Vandenberg County, is at the southwest corner. So that little triangle, or that little rectangle on the bottom of the state is the district they're in. There's 10 total districts, and we're in District 9. So just want to, they just completed the 123rd Indiana General Assembly in the state. They call it the long assembly because it's the budget year. They do a budget year every other year. So it's a little longer than others. Started January 9th, ended April 28th. And there were, I just want to kind of give some brief updates on the budget that was approved. The 2-year state budget is $44 billion to state-funded programs. That's all state-funded programs. K through 12 education spending in the state is 47% of that budget. Medicaid is the second largest amount. It's 18%. And over the last few years, K through 12 is going down a little bit. Medicaid is coming up, but we're still close to half of the budget for the tuition support for the schools. So 47% for the $44 billion budget is $17.8 billion. So that's what the schools and the state have for the next 2 years. The appropriation for FY24 is $8.8 billion, and then $9 billion for fiscal year 25. So that's an increase of almost $1.5 billion from this year. The foundation funding, we have a count twice a year called the average daily membership, where they do a head count at each school, and from that head count they determine the funding for each school for the year, and it's adjusted after each count. It's normally in September and February. I think next year might be October and February, the next school year. So the current amount is $6,235. In 24, it'll be $6,590, and in 25, it'll be $6,681. So that's an increase of 5.7 next year, and then an additional 1.4 after that. So the basic amount is around 6,200. We actually get around 6,750, I think, now. It's because there are some adjustments based on not just the base amount, there's adjustments. So next year's, they've increased budget for special education and then for what they call increased complexity. So if you have what we talked about, the reduced lunch program, honors program, dual credit program, early college credit, a lot of the level type work we have at the Career Center, all those enhance the amount that we get depending on the number of students who are in our programs. So we usually end up, getting quite a bit more than the base because of the level of accomplishments of our students.
And that amount is per student.
Per student, yeah. A change they did make to the budget is they're eliminating textbook rental fees as a separate line item, so that when we purchase our curriculum and we charge textbook fees, it's no longer allowed starting, I think that starts in this year. But they have ways that we can get reimbursed, so we'll have to figure out how exactly that looks. But so this year there were 1,162 bills introduced. 223 were tracked by the Indiana School Board Association because they affected K through 12. That's 19% of all the bills, or 1 out of 5, were related to public education or K through 12 education. 252 new laws were enacted. Every one was signed by the governor, none of them were vetoed. 48 of those were related to K through 12 education. Again, that's 19%, or 1 out of 5. So one thing they mentioned was with those 48 new laws, and there's 233 over the last 6 years. That's in public K through 12. So an average of 39 laws per year affecting the operation and governance of K through 12. So it's a significant amount of changes that we have to accommodate every year. So they do have a few new laws, and a couple of them we're in pretty good shape on. They have one that goes effect in July 2025, requires all school boards with elected members to live stream meetings. Right, so we're ahead of the game on some of these. Just a few other ones. Schools are required to establish a procedure for each school to catalog library materials, which I believe we already do, and also establish a procedure for parents or members of the community to petition to remove material. So I believe we have, I'm not sure that the rules are exactly the same, but we have that in place already. Also requires before December 31st, 2023, that each county shall establish a county school safety commission, which I believe we have, right? Right. And also requires each school corporation and charter school to establish a safe school committee. Right? So these are just some of the things that we're ahead of the game, I believe. And one additional thing I'll mention. I have a law that provides that the state board shall assign to a school or school corporation a null or no letter grade for 22, 23, and 23, 24. So they said like the testing of ILEARN and those kind of tests, they don't have confidence in them. So no matter what the scores were, there will not be letter grades this next school year. And they're pushing towards the new GPS dashboard and what that gives us in terms of academic performance and reporting. So next year they'll probably enhance that a little bit, right? So for the coming school year, we won't have letter grades. So this is a few highlights of just some of the things that happened. I thought it might be important to discuss those tonight. So thank you.
And thank you for attending that, Scott. It's very useful when we do have either someone from our administration or from our board at these meetings. Okay. Next is persons to address the board, not relevant to the agenda, or relevant to the agenda if you've thought of something. But we already voted on it, so we'll still listen. Okay. hearing no one, our upcoming meetings, there may be, so these are our regularly scheduled. We may have work sessions or other meetings added and that Greg will advertise for, but our next scheduled is on June 15th, a regular meeting. Right now it's scheduled for 6:30, but we have been doing them earlier to protect the quality of life of our staff who have to stay here after school. They were kind of waiting around in that hour in our central admin building, so we're just trying to, that's the reason that we're doing it earlier, is so that they don't have to be away from home as long. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mr. Bailey makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley makes a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We're adjourned.